Hi everyone, this is Darren from SimNation. Just doing a quick video series around situation and skills and how to determine who should start on your football team. So today we're going to talk about the secondary stats or defensive backfield. So generally, when you think of defensive backfields, I'm going to take tackling out of the equation because I'm going to do a separate video on tackling. You're thinking of the ability to defend a pass, meaning that you knock the ball down or prevent a catch from happening, and the ability to uh, essentially pick off the ball or intercept the ball. Um, so, key skills to kind of consider in this we'll go over in a second, but one of the things I think that most people forget about this game is not real life, right? In real life, people don't have little numbers assigned to them that determine with a random number generator how they're going to perform or not. In the game, the best way to think about the game in order to be successful is the aggregation of data. Um, and what I mean by that is when we talk about these skills, what you should be doing is adding up the points, and the points will determine who starts and who doesn't. Now, you do have to use a little bit of common sense, like as we go through this video with the Washington Huskies. I'm going to point out, well, on paper, someone should start, but just because they should start, I'm not starting them. And I'll explain why. So first, we're going to kind of talk about pass defense. Now, for transparency on this, if you were to go to Wolverine Studio site, go to the situation guide that they have for different skills, you're not going to see pass defense still or the ability to stop the pass. This is essentially reverse engineering into what skills play into the ability for someone to catch the ball. Generally, when you're thinking about someone's ability to catch the ball or stopping someone's ability to catch the ball, really what you're focusing on is agility, speed, intelligence, hands, and competitiveness. These are all things that you can add up and they will give you a number, and you should be able to use that number. Now, the key caveat here is speed is universal. So if you have a guy who has 75 speed and you're playing in a conference where they have 90 speed wide receivers, he may very well have the most points, but it's probably not a good idea to start him unless you're playing zone, because more than likely what's going to happen is those receivers are just going to blow by him because they have a 20-point difference in speed. Speed is a primary stat for the ability to catch the ball or the ability to defend a catch. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Secondary things that you can't really quantify easily is height. Now, generally speaking, the taller a cornerback is, the better that they defend a tall wide receiver. And it's hard to say what that relation is. Generally, my rule of thumb is I like having cornerbacks who are 5'11" or taller because it helps them. And then the other intangible are the traits. Generally, when we're talking about pass defense as opposed to interception, what we're looking at here are slot corners, zone corners, and maybe center fielders. Those are the three traits that will probably matter the most in determining whether or not someone can stop a pass from being caught. Now, I have Washington Huskies up. The reason why I'm using them instead of Maryland is Washington is uh, been built up over time, and it's easier to show this than showing on Maryland, who most of their secondary graduated last season, so I can't really show you empirical data. So I've done the drill of adding up these stats. So what I like to do is every year when I'm determining the depth chart, I hit export here, I put it in their Excel, I add up agility, speed, hands, competitiveness, in intelligence, and look at the height and stuff, and that gives me a point total. That point total is who I determine who starts and who doesn't. Based on that point total, I've done the math for you so you don't have to do it, is Agriar, who is at the top of the screen, is my highest point totaled cornerback. And the second one is actually Snowden, but if you notice something about Snowden, I play in the Pac-12. I can't have him start unless I'm putting him in a zone because of the fact that I have to play UCLA, I have to play California, I have to play Stanford, I have to play Washington State. Uh, USC, I probably could get away with it because Van runs a more option-based attack. But none of those are going to be allow me to be successful. So the next highest point total guy is Tan. And then, of course, I think the third highest point total is Quinlan. So if we look at Agriar, because Agriar started last year for me, Quinlan was around too, so was Tan. What you're going to notice very quickly is he's very fast. He's got decent hands. He is somewhat smart for a corner. He's got good agility. His competitiveness is really, really strong. He has a lower CB, but it's on the borderline of where I'm not drawing too heavy of a penalty. I am drawing a penalty because it's under 40. He has no traits. But if you look at his stats from last year, what you immediately notice is he is a pass defense machine. What I mean by that is you traditionally will measure pass defense effectiveness by catches allowed against targets. So if that is less than 50%, you have a guy who's really good at pass defense. In this case, if you think about this, he only allowed 39 catches last year against 105 targets. That is one of the more obscene stats that you will find from a pass defense for a cornerback. That means he only allowed 37% of the passes thrown at him to be completed. That is an unreal number for a cornerback. That is almost elite. 25 pass defenses mean that he actively did 25. Now, he's not an interception machine. What you'll notice with a lot of my teams is I don't prioritize interceptions over pass defenses. The reason for that is I'd much rather my guy just ground the ball than try to pick it off and not give up the big play. So you'll notice very quickly, Agriar definitely is a starter. We mentioned Tan was the second one. You look at Tan again, 92 speed, 52 hands, 63 intelligence. That's really good for a cornerback, by the way. 78 agility. His competitiveness is not as great. Again, I'm not pulling a full penalty here because of his 42, but I'm still pulling a penalty. And then what you see here with him again is he's under 50%. Not as great as Agriar, right? But really, really solid. 21 out of 52, definitely well under 50%. 11 pass defenses. He gave up a sack. He didn't see as much action on the field. Uh, and Pablo had a really good season. So, again, kind of showing that these things will actually turn into something meaningful. Um, the other guy that I think I mentioned was Quinlan. Um, Quinlan, again, you see this here again, 18 catches allowed against 41 targets. And again, he didn't play as much, four pass defenses. He tended to play more towards the box and he tended to be a nickelback. So he was blitzing a little bit more than the others were. But again, really good pass defense stats. So the best way I can say for if you're just trying to defend against the pass is really focus on adding up the hands, the agility, the intelligence, and the speed, and the competitiveness, and then going with the biggest one that you can find, but keeping in mind that you don't want to have too much of a speed differential. Height again does matter if you notice, but if you notice Quinlan's 5'7". He's not drawing a huge penalty. Agriar in this case is 5'10", and I remember Tan's not tall either. None of these guys are excessively tall, so height is not as of a big thing to me as those other stats. The other part of being in the secondary is how do you pick the ball off? It's very similar to pass defenses, maybe with a little bit of a deviation. Interceptions are largely based again on intelligence, agility, hand, and speed. Competitiveness doesn't really play here for this. But the thing that I would stress is, again, the higher the hand total and the higher the agility, the more likely you're going to pick the ball off. Now, some people would say that's opinion. I would say that my record in this league and in other leagues would show that I actually do know what I'm talking about here. Uh, if you want to really prioritize the interceptions, definitely make sure that you have higher agility in hands. And I'll show you a guy specifically that will kind of illustrate this remark. Um, Actually, let's just get off Washington for a second and go to Texas State. Uh, we will go to history, we will look at team records, and we will go to this guy whose name was William Boone. So William Boone started his career at Texas State way back when. This is on the 2019 version, but again, not a whole lot's changed. He was a wide receiver. This was when I had Texas State, and I said, I'm getting tired of this guy named Askell, who actually, for those who don't know, is a member of Wolverine Studios team. He was burning me constantly with Idaho, and I needed to stop him. So I took William Boone and took him from wide receiver. You can see he had 92 hands. That's a really high value for a cornerback. Agility 87. Uh, Penalties were not as much of a thing back then in the 2019 version. And what he ended up becoming, if you go past all this data, is 105 out of 53. So that's roughly about almost. He definitely is slightly over 50% there, slightly under Hill. 12 interceptions, 17 interceptions in his second season, 29 in 2 seasons with 50 pass defenses. He just, he's kind of the evidence that if you prioritize agility and hands more so than other things, you're going to find a guy who's going to pick the ball off a lot. So that's kind of what you need to be focusing on for the secondary. Again, add up the point totals, and what you'll find is that'll help you have a better chance of competing and stopping people from passing the ball. Now, again, if you're up against elite wide receivers and your guys are not in the same zone, it's going to be mixed success. So, what I would recommend doing is in many leagues, looking at running backs, looking at wide receivers, looking at quarterbacks who are fast, and looking to convert them to either cornerbacks or free safeties or strong safeties. So that's it for this video. Hopefully this helps you, and we'll talk again soon.